Having working tools in your studio is very important to your productivity, as well as just being able to accomplish various tasks. So making sure that you maintain your tools is of utmost importance. Today in this video, I'm going to show you how to thoroughly clean and maintain your Foredom Flexshaft. Hi, I'm Melissa Muir. Let's get started now. First, make certain the Flexshaft has been unplugged. In this video, I'm using the Foredom SR motor. Here at the bottom, you can see that we have the Flexshaft sheath and the motor connector. When I do this work, I like to have a pair of rubber gloves, a mask, and something to pull my hair back with if it's long, of course, and a pair of safety glasses. If I wanted to remove just the sheath of the Flexshaft, I will loosen this screw here at the base of the motor connector. You simply loosen the screw and pull to expose the Flexshaft. In this case, however, we want to remove the Flexshaft also. So I use a wrench to loosen the motor connector, and then I can remove it along with the sheath. Once I have that removed, then I can come back and loosen the tension screw holding the Flexshaft onto the motor itself. Now we are ready to clean our Flexshaft. I have a small plastic container that will hold the Flexshaft without having to coil it too tightly. I have a few different options for cleaning the old grease from the Flexshaft. In this case, I'm going to be using 91% isopropyl alcohol or rubbing alcohol. You could also use 70% if you happen to have that on hand. The stronger one will just work a little bit faster. I'll open it and pour in just enough to cover the Flexshaft. I want to make certain that everything is covered. Then I'm going to leave this to sit so that it isn't just sitting out in the open, because of course I want to protect kids and pets. I cover mine with a lid and put it into a safe spot. We're going to let this Flexshaft sit in the alcohol for at least a few hours. However, I really like to leave mine overnight. It just gives it a little bit of extra time to work. While the Flexshaft is soaking in the alcohol, I will begin the maintenance on the rest of the motor. First thing I'm going to do is remove and inspect the motor brushes. This is done by removing the covers here at the top portion of our motor next to the bail or handle. Be careful, as the brushes are spring-loaded and may pop out on you. The motor brushes are made of carbon or graphite and connect the motor to the electrical current. When you get your brushes, they are about 3/4 of an inch long. You will want to make sure that you watch this because you need to replace these if they get to 1/4 inch or less. Once a month, you should perform a brush check. While the brushes are out, take some compressed air and blow out the motor. As you use the motor, dust will accumulate from both the brushes wearing down and also the atmosphere, especially if you are using your Flexshaft for polishing operations. Now that we have blown it out thoroughly, the brushes are reinserted. They will only fit one way, though it can be a little tricky with that spring. Once you have the brushes in place, hold the spring-loaded part down while you carefully slip the cover back into place and screw that back on. It has now been about 24 hours that my Flexshaft has been soaking. It doesn't have to soak that long, like I said, but it just worked out with my schedule. Mine was already fairly clean, so there isn't a lot of debris. I like to use a paper towel to dry it off thoroughly and then dispose of the rubbing alcohol. I want to ensure that I have the Flexshaft nice and dry. To reattach the Flexshaft to the motor, loosen the screw just a little bit and slide it back onto the motor stem. You'll see that there is a slight flat spot for this. So we're just going to slip this back on and then tighten the screw. Now we are ready to re-lubricate the flexible shaft, which is very, very important. You also might find it easier to do this while the machine is hanging. Using the Foredom flexible shaft lubricant, apply a thin bead of lubricant from the top of the Flexshaft to about 3 inches before the key at the other end. Once the shaft has been greased entirely, we can reinstall the sheath. Retighten the sheath and use a wrench to secure down the motor connector. Be sure not to over tighten. Hang the motor and switch the motor to the forward position. You want the end of the Flexshaft to end just inside of a plastic container. This is to catch any grease that might drip and splatter. I'm using a tall garbage can. Do not do this in a bag, as the key can catch onto the bag and get tangled up. Find something you can use to apply pressure on the foot pedal. I'm going to be using this small vise. We want to run the machine at full speed for at least 20 minutes. This will work all of the grease throughout the entire flexible shaft. So now that we have let this run for about 20 minutes, I just want to take a paper towel and run it along this key. We want to remove any grease that might have worked its way down from that flex shaft, because if we don't, that grease can get into our hand pieces. It will make your hand piece heat up a lot and make it so that it no longer works, or at least not as efficiently. To reinsert my hand piece, I like to just push on the foot pedal just slightly so that it starts to rotate this. That will allow this to lock into the keyway inside of my hand piece, and then I can simply push it together. To remove my hand piece, all I have to do then is pull, and then I'm ready to swap this out. So now that we've gone through, we've thoroughly cleaned, we've thoroughly lubed, and we've checked everything, we should be good to go for several months depending on your usage. At a very bare minimum, I would highly suggest you do this once a year. Give it a really good thorough cleaning, check those brushes, and just make sure everything is lubricated. If you do this, you will be good to go, and your machine will last you for a lifetime. Now, if you are using your machine a lot, I would highly suggest you do this about once a month. At a very minimum, blowing out your motor to remove any dust and debris that might work its way in as you're doing any kind of grinding or metal removal or even any of that woodworking. As always, if you guys have any questions at all, make sure you drop them down here in the comments section and we'll be sure to get back to you. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you guys on the next video.